Gordon is strengthening and headed for the Gulf Coast. Good morning, I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. We do have a strengthening storm in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That is Tropical Storm Gordon. Hurricane warnings are out for the Gulf Coast. Gordon is expected to become a hurricane before making U.S. landfall somewhere between, say, Mobile and the mouth of the Mississippi River in the next 18 to 24 hours. We also have Florence out there, which almost became a hurricane yesterday, but it's looking a little more ragged this morning. Nevertheless, it could become a hurricane in the next, say, 5 days. And if you're in Bermuda and the eastern seaboard, keep an eye on it. And we have a new invest area off Africa, which could be a problem down the road for the Caribbean, but we have a lot of time to watch that. Let's get to Gordon, since it's obviously the main concern. Here's the latest on Tropical Storm Gordon as of 5 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Central from the National Hurricane Center. It was at 27.7 north, 85.7 west. Winds were up to 65 miles per hour, so hurricane is 74. So we're not too far from a hurricane, but it is racing west-northwest at 17. I can tell you right now, if this thing was moving slower, it would definitely be organizing quickly, and we'd be dealing with perhaps even a stronger hurricane at landfall. Thankfully, I don't think it's going to get too strong, but it is small, and those could go up or down very quickly. The pressure is still over 1,000 millibars. However, it is expected to become a hurricane and then come ashore maybe in Mississippi, but perhaps Alabama or Louisiana. And we do have a hurricane warning that goes from the mouth of the Mississippi River all the way over to Dauphin Island, just because this is expected to be a hurricane at landfall. There's the model guidance. You can see it's pretty tightly clustered between southeast Louisiana and the mid-Mississippi coastline. So the writing is almost on the wall that that's where landfall will occur. But of course, the storm surge, which could be up to 5 feet, maybe higher, the heaviest impacts will be on the eastern side of where that eye of the hurricane makes landfall. Here's the latest satellite imagery of Gordon, and you can see it is bubbling right over the center of circulation, but it is still getting some wind shear here because of this feature over in the western Gulf, and it's a flat system on the western side, which is indicative of wind shear. So we're not seeing rapid development, and it is small, but small ones can coil up very quickly. However, it is in that direction, say Mississippi, Alabama, in with 12 to 18 hours to prepare. You guys want to be on the alert. The shear maps show that even better. You can see it's on the precipice of very high shear to the east, or to the west rather, and very low shear on the eastern side, and so that's why it's kind of lopsided, but it seems to be just favorable enough to let Gordon become a hurricane prior to landfall. So we'll have heavy rainfall, perhaps up to 12 inches isolated amounts, and you can see the wind speed there as it comes ashore as a hurricane, but then the winds are going to dissipate pretty quickly as you move into Mississippi and towards Arkansas. Nevertheless, right at the coast, Category 1 hurricane force winds there, and if you're in areas like, say, Slidell, Biloxi, Gulfport, Pass Christian, Mississippi, Dauphin Island, you guys want to be on the alert for hurricane winds and hurricane gusts. Remember what it did to the Keys yesterday as they were getting gusts into the strong tropical storm force, and it was just becoming a tropical cyclone at that time. Now, I did want to go further out and touch on Florence. As of 5 a.m. Eastern Time, Atlantic Standard Time, it was at 19.3 north, 42.0 west. Winds were 70 miles an hour, so almost a hurricane still. West-northwest at 13. This is stronger and moving slower than Gordon, and it is expected to remain out over open water and eventually become a hurricane by the end of the weekend. And if you're in Bermuda, keep an eye on it. And again, if you're on the eastern seaboard, keep a close watch on this one, just because some of these computer models want to start to build the ridging of high pressure back into the north of Florence and kind of block it. Now, there's always a chance, and this happens a lot, that we could see a system pull northwest, then back west, and then loop around back out to sea. That is not unheard of. However, there's also a chance, like the Canadian model, that this could get close to the East Coast. A lot of time to watch it, though, and right now you don't have to worry. You can see it looked better earlier in the satellite last night and yesterday. It's kind of degraded a bit, not being able to pop out an eye, a lot of dry air out there. Nevertheless, it's trying, so it looks like this thing's going to persist over the coming days. And when we look at the computer models, this is the Canadian. You can see it brings Florence further to the west, pardon me, and then it brings two systems behind Florence, and this would be Helene and Isaac if they developed, and these would be moving towards the Caribbean. So that would be something to have to watch by about mid-month. Not to mention that it shows some kind of little feature here spinning into the Carolinas before Florence heads that way. The European model tries to take Florence straight out to sea, but these two systems follow behind it, and we also have some lowering pressures in the Caribbean, which the GFS touches on, and the GFS model is even trying to make that a tropical cyclone into the Texas coastline beyond 180 hours. You can see it takes Florence right into Bermuda and then very close to the eastern seaboard with our two systems coming behind off of Africa. So again, this is all very long term and just speculative, but this is an indication that the Atlantic is getting active right into the heart of hurricane season with a forecast hurricane landfall on the Gulf Coast later this evening. So if this wave off Africa develops, this one could move straight towards the Caribbean while we're watching Florence, and in the next 24 hours, we're going to have Gordon to deal with. Again, hurricane warnings are up. Dauphin Island to the mouth of the Pearl River. You guys got to be ready for at least a Category 1 hurricane. Always be ready for one above. So in case this thing tightens up right at landfall, be prepared, because Gordon packed a wallop in South Florida as a tropical storm. I have a feeling it'll pack a little bit of a wallop as it comes into the Gulf Coast as a hurricane later tonight. I'm Mike Naso. I'll see you guys next time.